Your heart and cardiovascular system requires many nutrients for a proper function. Folic acid, B12, and niacin are just a few. Omega-3s are another very important nutrient for heart health. The ever-increasing research now says that 80% of people worldwide have low levels of EPA and DHA omega-3s. That's incredible. In this day and time, evidence is surfacing saying that we need to increase our omega-3s in our diet. For many people, eating more fish is not an option, and taking just any fish oil is not always wise. So today, I've invited Nicole Gitlin from Nordic Naturals to help explain the science, the best nutrients for your heart, and what to look for in a quality fish oil. Nicole is a certified holistic health practitioner, certified herbalist, and a certified nutritional consultant. Welcome to the show, Nicole.
Thank you, Brian. I really appreciate being invited on the show.
Well, thanks so much for being here today. You know, February is Heart Month, and we need to talk about cardiovascular health and all the things we can do to make our heart and cardiovascular system stronger. So I wanted to bring you on. You are an expert in omega-3s and all this good stuff for the heart. So I want to dive deep into that and really, give the viewers as much information as possible to make their cardiovascular system strong. So let's just start with the main benefits. What is the main reason why people would want to take an omega-3 in the first place?
That's a great place to start. And honestly, especially when we're talking about cardiovascular health, it's so important to learn the key things that help us to support our cardiovascular system, since heart-related fatalities are the #1 cause of death globally. So when we're talking about omega-3 fats, omega-3s are essential fatty acids that play critical biological functions within our cells, but meaning that our bodies cannot efficiently manufacture them on their own, and meaning that we really need to get them via our diet or via supplementation so that we can get these benefits. And when we're talking about these main health benefits of omega-3s, it's really head to toe benefits. And the reason being is that it supports our cells. And our bodies are made up of trillions of cells, about 60 to 100 trillion cells to be exact. And so when we are supporting each and every cell within our bodies, we are supporting the structure and function to pretty much every living cell, tissue, organ, and even organ system within the body. So that is really the main reason why there's that head to toe benefit of omega-3 fatty acids. And to not confuse our viewers as we go through, omega-3s have two very important omega-3 fats that are known as EPA and DHA. And this is really where that big science on omega-3s lie, those long chain fatty acids that are commonly found in fish oil, and algaes.
Nicole, a lot of people get confused between that EPA and DHA. Could you briefly describe the difference between those two?
Absolutely. So EPA and DHA are just two types of omega-3s. They are both very important in our diet and everyday consumption, but they do have slightly different. DHA is what we like to loosely consider as a neck up fat due to the structural support to our brains, our eyes, and our central nervous system. Our brains alone are made up of 60% fat, and about 20 to 25% of it alone is made up of DHA. And even the highest concentration, people are shocked to find out that the highest concentration of DHA in our bodies is actually found in the retinas of our eyes at about 35%. So when we're thinking of DHA, we're really supporting that brain, eyes, and central nervous system. Particularly, of course, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners today are starting to recognize prenatal, infancy, and childhood, because that's really where we are really going through these critical periods of development where we are supporting the growth of our brains and also our visual function and development. Now, in contrary, we do have another type of omega-3, and that one's called EPA. And EPA is what we like to loosely consider more as that neck down fat, because it's more of a functional health support, particularly supporting our cardiovascular systems, immune system, digestive system, pretty much any other system that is that neck down feature. EPA would be phenomenal to supporting the cells within our joints, our immune systems, our livers, our heart cells. Every single cell of our body is going to be affected via either EPA or DHA. And that's why when we talk about these health benefits of fish oil, oh my gosh, does the science lay heavily on prenatal health, eye health, heart health, especially being cardioprotective, brain health, and of course, joint health. So there is a vast amount of research and prolific amount of research supporting the use of EPA and DHA to support optimal health.
I really appreciate that breakdown, Nicole. That really sort of defines it for people that DHA is that neck up fat and EPA is your neck down fat. I think that's a great description to put it out there. So you spoke of the science, and that's where I love science. So let's dive a little bit deeper into what's the new science out there right now talking about the benefits of the cardiovascular roles of omega-3 fatty acids.
Oh my gosh, I am so glad that you asked, especially because when we look at the data that's been published within recent years, I'm sure many of our listeners here have at some point stumbled upon some sort of a study that showed no effect of omega-3, inconsistent results regarding how EPA and DHA may actually affect these various cardiovascular outcomes. And before I dig into that new research, I'd like to first mention that a lot of these studies, if you are one of those individuals that actually like to read them, you'll notice that a lot of these studies, they showed no benefits because of either some sort of methodological issue or low doses. So sometimes you can see the outcome of the result being either from an issue from their methodology or from overall a low dose. And so in order to really help clear up that overall confusion, GOED, which are the Global Organization for EPA and DHA, they recently evaluated all of that available evidence within these meta-analyses. And so what they did was that they published in a very well-respected medical journal that's called the Mayo Clinic Proceedings. But what I mean by meta-analysis is that they concluded over 40 different studies that included over 135,000 participants. And throughout the study, what they found was that supplementing with up to 5.5 grams, so 5,500 milligrams of omega-3s, were linked to major reductions in overall cardiovascular related events. And so a lot of those significant statistical results, for example, was that they noticed about a 35% reduction risk of fatal myocardial infarction, 13% reduced risk of an overall myocardial infarction, 10% reduced risk of coronary heart disease events, and even a 5% reduction of overall cardiovascular disease events. So it's phenomenal to see how a dose and these higher doses really support the positive health outcomes.
Nicole, I'm going to put that graphic up that you're referring to right now so people can see what you're talking about. And I think it's important to note that that was based on what, over 40 clinical trials they put together to evaluate those percentages you just mentioned. I think that's just incredible information, stats that are out there showing the benefits of what omega-3 is good for.
Yes, and interestingly, Bryan, if you go further into the study, what they actually found was that those individuals that kept increasing their dose of fish oil, for example, those that kept increasing by about 1 gram per day of omega-3s, EPA and DHA, it actually delivered yet an additional 9% reduction in heart artery obstruction and about a 5.8% reduction in the risk of overall cardiovascular events. So these results really show how higher amounts of omega-3, EPA, and DHA may provide additional support to overall heart and cardiovascular health.
I totally agree. I mean, that's an amazing graphic because those stats are just incredible just based on that percentage, what they were using. So it just proves that you're right. It's the way they evaluate studies and look at it and determine whether omega-3 really is beneficial to us. And this by far is proving how important it really is to our bodies. So let's move a little further into another one of my favorites, CoQ10. You know, a lot of people are taking CoQ10 and a lot of people don't even know why they're doing it. They're just, doctors are telling them to take it. Let's dive a little deeper into that and explain why CoQ10 is important for heart health as well.
Absolutely. And so CoQ10 is actually the body's strongest fat-soluble antioxidant. And particularly when we are talking about heart health, it plays a very important role in protecting the oxidative damage of particularly LDL cholesterol, which most of us understand that is a high risk factor for overall certain cardiovascular conditions, especially when promoting health to our blood vessels. But when we think about CoQ10, and what I think that a lot of our listeners maybe don't yet to fully grasp about CoQ10 is that it is present in every single cell of our body. However, the highest concentrations of CoQ10 are found in those organs that have a great demand for energy. And of course, our hearts are one of those organs that have a very big demand for energy. And really, when we think about this energy, it's that critical production of energy of our currency that we call ATP. And that ATP is occurring within the mitochondria of every single cell of our body, even including our hearts. And what I found most fascinating about this, Bryan, was that, of course, the mitochondria are those workhorses of our cells. And in just one heart cell, there's an average of about 3,000 to 4,000 different mitochondria. So you can just imagine the energy that is needed to support our cardiovascular system. So a lot of individuals could really benefit from consuming CoQ10 because it's a lot of people who have these low levels of CoQ10 will have a lot of deficits of that energy that can impact the functioning of our hearts on multiple levels. So it's really important that we consume CoQ10 to upkeep the energy that is required by our hearts.
Nicole, I'd like to hear your opinion on this because a lot of our clients come in and we got different dosages ranging from a 30 milligrams all the way up to 200-300 milligrams of CoQ10. How much does a person really need? And I know it depends on, like we know people taking statin medication, that the statin medications actually block a lot of your natural CoQ10 production. So let's start with that group of people first. And how much do you recommend people take of CoQ10 who are taking a statin versus someone who's not?
Very good question. So a lot of the science, especially, there's no really standardized overall dose, but there is positive research outcomes supporting that about 100 milligrams per day is what appears to be a supportive dose, especially for any individual who is on statin. Maybe their bodies are unable to convert a lot of that ubiquinone into ubiquinol. So we can definitely start increasing a lot of those doses for certain individuals, either on statin medication, even individuals over the age of 40, because at the age of 40 is when we naturally begin to decline our own production of CoQ10. So this is really in those moments when we want to increase that amount of CoQ10. And I would say about 100 milligrams per day appears to be what a good standard dose to support would be.
I agree with you. That's about what we're doing here as well too, based on what we've read and seen. We have some cardiologists in the area who are doing upwards of 300 to 400 milligrams a day for their heart patients, you know, who already have cardiovascular disease. So even the doctors around here are now starting to really see the benefits of what CoQ10 is doing for people. So it's a great thing to do. You also spoke about ubiquinol and ubiquinone. Can you briefly describe the difference between those two? I know it's another confusing topic for people.
Of course, and it's very important to be able to distinguish both because especially when we go to a store and we're trying to pick out the correct supplement, sometimes we don't know when we see just CoQ10 on the front of the label, but maybe on the back supplement facts, it'll say ubiquinone or ubiquinol. And so these are just two different forms of CoQ10. Those individuals under the age of 40 or just an athlete who's just looking to support the energy production in the heart, you may be okay with a ubiquinone. But ubiquinol is that direct biological active form of CoQ10. So ubiquinone, once we consume, our bodies barely have to convert it into that active form of ubiquinol. So ubiquinol, when you are looking at it in supplements, will have a big price tag in comparison to ubiquinone. And that's how you can usually tell the difference between both. But pretty much it's just the active form of CoQ10. So especially if you, like we were mentioning, if you're over the age of 40, if you are on statin medication, or you know your body doesn't have a good conversion of the ubiquinone into ubiquinol, you want to make sure you spend that extra couple of dollars and go directly to the ubiquinol source of CoQ10 to get that best direct effect.
Totally agree with you, Nicole. That's a great description of the two. Thank you very much for doing that. Let's pause for just a moment to recognize our sponsor. Each of us has just one heart that keeps us going, so it's vital to do everything we can to care for our hearts. Good nutrition can help. Did you know that there's more research on omega-3 for heart health than any other nutritional supplement? Studies link omega-3 fatty acids with healthy triglycerides and blood pressure, functional arteries, normal cholesterol, and overall heart health. There's even new evidence that upping your daily intake of omega-3s can make a significant difference in the health of your heart. But even with thousands of studies pointing to these benefits, people rarely get enough omega-3 from their diet alone. That's why supplementation is so important. For heart-healthy omega-3s, try Nordic Naturals Ultimate Omega Fish Oils, or their all-vegan algae omega. Nordic Naturals also offers essential nutrients for the heart, including CoQ10 and vitamin D products. Give your heart the very best with Nordic Naturals. Let's talk about another heart health nutrient that not everybody knows is good for the heart, and that is good old vitamin D. You know, we're all taking it for the immune system and prevention of the virus right now, but let's talk about the heart health benefits of vitamin D.
Yes, and that's actually such a good thing to bring forward, because when we think of vitamin D, everyone thinks bone health, immune health. And I think that a lot of individuals are surprised to find that aside of that, it also helps to support metabolic health, brain health, and even, of course, our cardiovascular system. What I actually found most surprising was that about 42% of US adults are deficient in vitamin D. But when we are talking about vitamin D3 and supporting heart health, oh my gosh, can I just share the amount of positive research supporting overall the reduction of risk of complications to both heart and blood vessels? There is a vast majority of research looking at wide ranges, all the way from 600 IUs of D3 all the way up to 4,000 IUs of D3, looking at how D3 helps to decrease that stiffness to that overall blood vessel after an 8-week period. So just consuming vitamin D3, 8 weeks in 2 months, you can notice that decreased stiffness on our blood vessels compared to those that were in a placebo group. So it's really impressive to see how these studies observe that dose-response relationship and how they measure that a higher amount of vitamin D improve the overall blood vessel structure, as well as the overall support to our cardiovascular system.
Wow, so vitamin D definitely plays a big part with the heart too as well. So if we can add that to the list of the immune and bone health, now we know how important it is for heart. That's great. And vitamin D, what are you recommending as far as dosage? I know what the RDA is still around, 600 IUs, and I know it depends on what the doctor's doing on that side, but I see a lot of people taking upwards of 5,000, 10,000 IUs a day, and not sure if everybody really needs that high dosage, but that's why I tell everybody, make sure you're checking your levels of vitamin D on a yearly basis to see what your body really needs, and go by the instructions of your doctor from that point. I have another commonly asked question from people coming into the store, and they're always saying, okay, hey, I'm a vegetarian or a vegan, and I don't want to do fish oil from fish. So let's talk about the plant sources, and are they as good as the fish oil side or algae sources? Help us explain the difference between plant-based and fish oils.
Of course. So when we're talking about fish oil, and the reason that people take it, like I mentioned, is to get the direct source of EPA and DHA. When we talk about algae products, algae, luckily, is also in the direct EPA and DHA form of omega-3. So fish oil or algae oil are the perfect product choices to get that direct source of EPA and DHA. Now, there's also something that's called a plant-based omega-3, and there's a little bit different than EPA and DHA. Our plant-based omega starts in with something that's called alpha-linolenic acid, and the difference is that they're much shorter chain omega-3s. And in order to convert this plant-based ALA into EPA and DHA, which are those long chain omega-3s, there's over a 20 enzymatic step process for our bodies to be able to convert that. So when we are talking about these plant-based sources, a lot of our customers recognize them as chia seeds, flax seeds, and leafy greens. And while they're wonderful nutrients for many other wide variety of nutrient vitamin profile that they may have, they don't provide that direct source of EPA and DHA. And research actually shows that we convert an extremely low amount. Unfortunately, research shows we only convert a low of 1 to 5% of this plant-based ALA into EPA and DHA. And so what really helped to grasp my understanding and my mind around this, because I need to look at numbers, let's say that one of our customers is coming in looking to consume 1,000 milligrams of EPA and DHA. That would be completely covered by one serving of our Ultimate Omega. So just 2 soft gels. To get an equivalent to that 1,000 milligram in these plant-based sources, it would be upwards of 57 soft gels of flax oil or over a 10-ounce bag of chia seeds just to get that 1,000 milligrams.
That is a big difference.
Yep, over half a pound of chia. Can you imagine the water, all the fiber that would go into breaking that down?
I just see being in the bathroom all day at that point, that's for sure. But Nordic Naturals has a product, their Algae Omega product. So is it still just as good? Would you still recommend it?
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up, because Algae Omega is that perfect in-between product. For anyone who wishes not to consume fish, whether it's because of a vegetarian or vegan diet, or even just simply anyone who prefers not to eat fish, but maybe doesn't want to rely on those plant-based sources, algae is that perfect in-between product because it's going to provide the direct source of EPA and DHA, but at a slightly lower dose. So it's not going to be as high as fish oil, but you're still going to get, for example, our Algae Omega, which you can buy at Sunflower Shoppe. Algae Omega still gives you both EPA and DHA at 715 milligrams of total omega-3s combined. That is much higher than comparable products that are plant-based. So for any sort of vegan or vegetarian, you're still getting a really good amount of direct EPA and DHA. And Bryan, even if that individual were looking to consume a higher dose, let's say that 1,000, 2,000 milligrams, they could just up their dose on algae if need be to reach a higher dose. But you're still getting a really good amount of support even through selecting an Algae Omega product.
And really, that's still the vegetarian's next best option if they don't want to do fish oil. So it makes sense. I'd rather do that than eat all those chia seeds, right?
100%. Yes, better choice, always.
Well, let's talk about the importance of a fish oil supplement too, because people always ask, hey, I get my fish oil from Costco or Sam's or something, and that's fine. But I tell them this is one area you never want to skimp on pricing is your fish oil. Explain why that is, Nicole.
You are so right about that. And if there's one nutrient or one supplement that we really need to focus on quality, it's going to be fish oil. And the reason being is that fish oil is very delicate and these fats can oxidize quite quickly. So I'm sure a lot of individuals have even experienced opening a fish oil product and it's smelling or tasting fishy. And that's not good signs of a good quality product. So key things when looking for a quality product, you want to make sure that it tastes fresh, that it tastes pure, that you're not getting that fishy burp back taste. A lot of these signs can be signs of oxidation. And for example, what we do at Nordic Naturals in order to protect these oils, to make sure that they're always pure, fresh, and palatable, we always keep these oils in an oxygen-free environment from boat to bottle, so that the oxygen can always be at a minimal amount. Pretty much nitrogen is introduced in order to really take away that oxygen so that we can get minimal amounts of oxidation so that our oils can always really just taste like that pure and fresh fish oil that we are supposed to have. Especially when you're talking about freshness, sustainability, it's really important when choosing a fish oil product that you choose something that has 100% wild-caught fish from some of the cleanest waters in the world. You want to make sure that it's cold water fatty fish. For example, cod, anchovies, sardines, even salmon. You'd be surprised how many different products out there can be sourced from a lot of fish that may not contain a lot of these fatty fish components of EPA and DHA. So it's very important to be able to select the correct sources to also provide that amount of EPA and DHA. But when we're also talking about sustainability, it's very important to choose a product, not only that source from non-endangered species, but also making sure that we align with fisheries that are Friend of the Sea certified, meaning that we protect the health of our oceans, as of course the oceans are as equally taking care of us. So it's very important to really keep an eye out on these three key factors that really make a difference when choosing a high quality supplement product. And Bryan, if I may add, I think one of the biggest differentiators when talking about fish oil products is when you're talking about the form of fat. And at Nordic Naturals, I think most of our customers, or at least retailers, understand that all of our products are in this superior triglyceride form. And triglyceride form really just stands for the natural form of fat. Most of the fats that we consume on our daily diet, 98% of those are in their natural triglyceride form. The only other 2% of dietary fat is typically about cholesterol and phospholipids. So we pretty much manufacture our oils in the way your body was meant to take it, especially when you are talking about individuals that want to consume a higher amount of EPA and DHA in fewer servings. These types of fish oil products are called concentrated products. And when you talk about concentrated products, that's where we open up this whole new ball of conversation of comparing triglycerides versus ethyl esters. And a lot of our customers seem to get confused at the two of them. When you're looking at salmon or anchovies for lunch, for example, we are consuming those fats in their natural triglyceride form. When we're getting a concentrated product, such as an Ultimate Omega, any manufacturer who wishes to increase the amount of EPA and DHA per serving, we have to temporarily remove that natural fat structure into something that's called an ethyl ester. And ethyl ester is really what allows us to increase the amount of EPA and DHA that we would like to have within a product. What I think is very crucial to mention is that ethyl ester is a new form of fat. It's only been introduced into our diets about 30 years ago, and it's what I like to refer to more of a synthetic fat because our bodies don't really recognize it. It's just a way to up the amount of EPA and DHA. But once any manufacturer wishes to do this, it's very important that our final product, the finished product, is returned back into its natural triglyceride form. And that's what we take the extra time and cost to do at Nordic Naturals so that even our high concentrate products can still be consumed in that triglyceride form because we recognize the importance of giving our body the fats in the way that it's used to recognizing them. So we take that extra time and cost to what we call re-esterify our oils to make sure that they can be consumed in their natural triglyceride form. But you'd be surprised how many products in our industry are not returned to that triglyceride structure. So many of these concentrated products are in an ethyl ester form, which just have a suboptimal absorption rate when are consumed in supplementation, because we don't see this in food. So our bodies can't really recognize the difference. And this is why it's very important, especially when choosing a concentrated product, to go with one that does specify that it is in that superior triglyceride form.
And the price usually reflects that. They can get these 1,000-count bottles of fish oil out there that may be very high dosage in that EPA marking, but it's from the ethyl ester form. And this is why I love your breakdown. That was a great way to break it down. That triglyceride form is more that natural state that our body was meant to absorb it in. So that's great information on that. This is why Nordic Naturals is definitely one of the leading manufacturer companies of omega-3 oils out there. For all your knowledge, I appreciate you being here today. I think you're a wealth of knowledge, Nicole. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you so much, Bryan. I really appreciate the time and your overall continued support of the brand.
Thank you, Nicole. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Healthy Approach podcast. Please subscribe if you like this podcast and help us spread the word by rating and sharing with your friends and family. If you'd like to learn more about omega-3 supplements and what they can do for you, go to sunflowershoppe.com. That's shop with 2 P's and an E, or visit us at one of our 3 locations in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.